Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. So we are from Group 3, and now we would like to present about global production, outsourcing, and logistics. In this presentation, I am Luthfina, and I will be presenting this with my other friends, Tara, Hyacintha, Bianca, David, Nadhira, and Qorie. So there are 6 components that we would like to discuss in this presentation. First is strategy, production, and logistics. Second is where to produce. Third is foreign factories' strategic role. Fourth is outsourcing production. Fifth is managing global supply chain. And the last one is case analysis.
Okay guys, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is strategy, production, and logistics. We have known before in the previous chapters a number of value creation activities such as production, marketing, logistics, R&D, human resources, and information systems. But in this particular chapter, we will focus on 2 functions, which is production and logistics. What is production? Production is the activities involved in creating a product, whether it is manufactured goods or services. And the second one is logistics. Logistics is the activity that controls the transmission of physical materials through the value chain from procurement through production and into distribution. The production and logistics functions of an international firm have a number of important strategic objectives. The first one is to lower costs. Dispersing production activities to various locations around the globe where each activity can be performed most efficiently can lower costs. And the second one is to increase product quality by eliminating defective products from both the supply chain and manufacturing process. In this context, quality also means reliability, where it implies that the product has no defects and performs well. In the next slide, we can see a figure that explains the relationship between quality and costs. The firm that improves its quality control will also reduce its cost of value creation. How? Improved quality control reduces costs by increasing productivity because time is not wasted producing poor quality products that cannot be sold, and then therefore it will result in a direct reduction in unit costs. The second one is lowering rework and scrap costs associated with the defective products, and the third one is reducing warranty costs and time associated with fixing the defective products. The effect is to lower costs of value creation by reducing both production and after-sales service costs, and then therefore it will increase the profit. The next thing that we're going to discuss is Six Sigma. The Six Sigma methodology is a principal tool that most managers now use to increase the reliability or the quality of their product offering. The Six Sigma is a direct descendant of the Total Quality Management, or the TQM philosophy, developed by a few American consultants such as Edward Deming, Joseph Juran, and Feigenbaum. Deming identified a number of steps that should be a part of any TQM program. The first one is that he argued that mistakes, defects, and poor quality materials are not acceptable and should be eliminated. The second one is that he recommended that quality of supervision should be improved by allowing more time for supervisors to work with employees. Deming recommended that measurement should create an environment in which employees will not fear or will not hesitate reporting problems or recommending improvements. And the third one is he believed that work standards should not only be defined as numbers or outputs or quotas, but it should also include some notion of quality. And the last one is he argued that management has the responsibility to train employees in new skills to keep pace with changes in the marketplace. He also said that achieving better quality requires the commitment of everyone in the company. One example of a corporation or a company that uses the Six Sigma is General Electric, or GE. Its commitment to quality is evident in all of its industries, from retail to insurance to aviation. So basically, Six Sigma is a statistically based philosophy that aims to reduce defects, boost productivity, eliminate waste, and cut costs throughout a company. The word sigma itself comes from the Greek letter that statisticians use to represent a standard deviation from a mean. And the higher the number of sigmas, the smaller the number of errors is. At Six Sigma, a production process would be 99.99966% accurate, with just 3.4% defects per million units. While it's almost impossible for a company to achieve such perfection, Six Sigma quality is a goal that some strive toward to try to boost their product quality and productivity. The growth, um, the growth of international standards has also focused greater attention on the importance of product quality. For example, is ISO 9000 in Europe. The European Union requires that the quality of a firm's manufacturing processes and products be certified under a quality standard known as the ISO 9000 before the firm is allowed to access the EU marketplace. So in addition to the two objectives that I have mentioned in the previous slides, which is to lower costs and to improve quality, there are two other objectives that are particularly important in international businesses. The first one is that production and logistics functions must be able to accommodate demands for local responsiveness. And as we have studied in the previous chapters, demands for local responsiveness arise from national differences in consumer tastes and preferences, in infrastructure, in distribution channels, and in host government demands. The second one is that production and logistics must be able to respond quickly to shifts in customer demand. In the recent years, time-based competition has grown more important. When consumer demand is prone to large and unpredictable shifts, the firm that can adapt most quickly to these shifts will gain an advantage.
Hello friends, my name is Bianca and I'm going to continue the presentation to talk about where to produce. So it's an essential decision facing an international firm is where to locate its production activities to best minimize costs and second, improve product quality. So, for the firm contemplating international production, a number of factors must be considered. There are three factors here. So, first is country factors, second is technological factors, and the third is product factors. Me and Tara are going to present each factors. So, the type of technology a firm uses to perform specific manufacturing activities can be pivotal in location decisions. For example, because of technological constraints in some cases, it is necessary to perform certain manufacturing activities in only one location and serve the world market from there. In other cases, the technology may make it feasible to perform an activity in multiple locations. Three characteristics of a manufacturing technology are the interest here. First is the level of fixed cost, second is the minimum efficient scale, and the third is the flexibility of the technology. So the first one is the level of fixed cost. As we noted in the previous chapter, in some cases, there are the fixed costs of setting up a production plant are so high that a firm must serve the world market from a single location or from very few locations. For example, if it now costs more than $1 billion to set up a state-of-art plant to manufacture a semiconductor chips. Given this, other things being equal, serving the world market from a single plant site at a single optimal location can be make sense because the fixed cost is very high. In the other hand, a relative low level of fixed cost can make it economical to perform a particular activity in the several locations at once. This allows the firm to better accommodate demands from local responsiveness. And manufacturing in multiple locations might also be helpful to the firm because they can avoid being too dependent on one location. Being too dependent at one location is particularly very risky in a world of floating exchange rates. Many firms disperse their manufacturing plants to different locations as a real hedge against potentially adverse move in currencies. So when we move on into the second interest, we are going to talk about a minimum efficient scale. You may be wondering, what is it? So let's have a flashback a little bit. You may be remember about the concept of economies of scale, right? It tells us that as a plant output expand, the unit cost will decrease. The reason include the greater utilization of capital equipment and the productivity gains that come with specialization of employees within the plant. However, beyond a certain level of output, few additional scale economies are available. Thus, the unit cost curve declines with output until a certain output level is reached, at which point further increase in output realize a little reduction in unit cost. The level of output at which most plant-level scale economies are exhausted is referred as the minimum efficient scale of output. So this is the curve that you can see right now. When the volume increase, the unit cost will decrease, and that's where we are going to find the minimum efficient scale. The larger the minimum efficient scale of a plant relative to the total global demand, the greater the argument for centralizing production in a single location or a limited number of locations. Alternatively, when we when Alternatively, when the minimum efficient scale of production is low relative to global demand, it may be economical to manufacture your product in several locations. For example, the minimum efficient scale for a plant to manufacture personal computers is about 250 units a year, while underline this, while the total global demand exceeds 35 million units per year. The low level of minimum efficient scale in relation to the total global demand makes it economically feasible for companies such as Dell to manufacture PC in 6 locations at the same time. As in this case, the low fixed cost, the advantage to a low minimum efficient scale include allowing the firm to accommodate demands for local responsiveness or to hedge against a currency risk by manufacturing the same product in several locations. So let's move on to the third interest when talking about technological factors. It's the flexible manufacturing and mass customization or lean production or flexible manufacturing technology. Central to the concept of economies of scale is the idea that the best way to achieve a high efficiency and hence a low unit cost is through a mass production of a standardized output. The trade-off implicit in this idea is between unit cost and a product variety, right? So producing a so producing greater product variety from a factory implies a shorter product runs, which in turn implies an inability to realize economies of scale. This is wide product variety makes it difficult for a company to increase its product efficiency and thus reduce its unit cost. According to this logic, the way to increase efficiency and drive down the unit cost is to limit product variety and produce a standardized product in a large volume. The rise of flexible manufacturing technology has challenged this view of production efficiency. Then there's a term of flexible manufacturing technology, or we can call it as lean production. As is often called, it covers a range of manufacturing technology designed to first reduce the setup times for complex equipment, second, increase the utilization of individual machines through better scheduling, and the third, to improve the quality control at all stages of manufacturing process. Okay, so we already know there are 3 benefits of flexible manufacturing, right? The flexible manufacturing technology will allow the company to produce a wider variety of end product at a unit cost that at one time could be achieved only through a mass production of a standardized output. Research suggests that the adoption of flexible manufacturing technology might actually increase efficiency and lower unit costs relative to what can be achieved by the mass production of a standardized output, while at the same time enabling the company to customize its product offering to a much greater extent that was once through thought possible. The term mass customization has been coined to describe the ability of companies to use flexible manufacturing technology to reconcile two goals that were once thought to be incompatible: low cost and product customization. Flexible manufacturing technology vary in their sophistication and complexity. One of the most famous examples of flexible manufacturing technology is Toyota production system that has been credited with making Toyota the most efficient auto company in the world. One of the company engineers, Ohno Taichi, developed a Toyota flexible manufacturing system after working at Toyota for 5 years and visiting Ford US plant. He became convinced that the mass production philosophy for making cars was flawed, so he saw numerous problems with the mass production. First, the problem that he find is that long production runs create massive inventories that are hard to be stored in a large warehouse. This was expensive, right, to have a large warehouse, both because the cost of warehousing right expensive and because the inventory is tied up capital and in a really unproductive use. Second, the flaw is that if the initial machine setting were wrong, long production runs resulted in a production of a large number of defects, aka a waste. The last one is the mass production system was unable to accommodate consumer preferences for a product diversity. In response, Ono looked for ways to make it a shorter production runs economical. He developed a number of technology designed to reduce setup times for product equipment. By using a system levers and pulleys, he reduced the time required to change dies and stamping equipment from a full day to 3 minutes. That's amazing. This made the small production runs economical, which allowed Toyota to respond better to consumer demands for product diversity. Small production runs also eliminated the need to hold a large inventory, thereby reducing warehousing costs. Plus, small production runs and the lack of inventory mean that the defective part were produced only in small number as well and entered the assembly process immediately. This will reduce waste and help trace defects back to their source to fix the problem immediately. In summary, these innovations enable Toyota to produce a more diverse product range at lower unit cost than was possible with the conventional mass production. So after we talk about the mass customization, let's talk about the another point of flexible manufacturing, which is a flexible machine cell, or another common flexible manufacturing technology. A flexible machine cell is a grouping of various types of machinery, a common materials handler, and a centralized cell controller or computer. Its cell normally contains 4 to 6 machines capable of performing a variety of operations. The typical cell is dedicated to production of a family of parts or products. The settings on these machines are computer controlled, which allow each cell to switch quickly between the production of a different parts of product, improve capacity utilization and reductions in work in progress, that is stockpiles of partly finished product, and waste are major efficiency benefits of flexible machine cells. Improved capacity utilization arise from the reduction in setup times and from the computer-controlled coordination of production flow between machines, which eliminates a bottleneck. The tight coordination between machines also reduces the work in progress inventory. Reductions in waste are due to ability of computer-controlled machinery to identify waste, to transform inputs into outputs while producing a minimum of unusable waste material. While freestanding machines might be in use 50% of the time, the same machines when grouped into a cell can be used more than 80% of the time and produce the same end product with a half of waste. This increased efficiency and result in lower costs. This effect of installing flexible manufacturing technology on a company cost structure can be dramatic. So I already tell you the details about flexible manufacturing, right? We can conclude that flexible manufacturing can help companies to improve efficiency and, of course, lowering costs. Is that it? Of course not. Flexible manufacturing technologies also enable companies to customize product to the demand of a small consumer group at a cost that one time could be achieved only by mass producing a standardized output. Thus, the technologies help a company achieve mass customization, which increase its customer responsiveness. Most important to the international business, flexible manufacturing technologies can help a firm to customize product for a different national market. So, when flexible manufacturing technologies are available, a firm can manufacture products customized to various national markets as a single factory site at a optimal location, and it can do this without absorbing a significant cost penalty. So firms no longer need to establish a manufacturing facilities in each major national market to provide products that can satisfy specific consumer tastes and preferences, part of the rationale for a localization strategy. So the summary for this factor, for the technological factor that I already tell you, is that a number of technological factors support the economic arguments for concentrating production facilities in a few choice location or even in a single location. Other things being equal, when fixed costs are substantial, the minimum efficient scale of production is high, and or the flexible manufacturing technologies are available, the arguments for concentrating production at a few choice of locations are strong. This is true when substantial differences in customer tastes and preferences exist within national market because flexible manufacturing technologies allow the firm to customize products to national differences at a single facility. Alternatively, when fixed costs are low and the minimum efficient scale of production is low, and there is a flexible manufacturing technologies that are not available in the plant or in the company, the arguments for concentrating production at one or few locations are not compelling. In such cases, it may be more sense to manufacture in each major market in which the firm is active if this help the firm better responds to local demands. This holds only if the increased local responsiveness more than the offsets of cost disadvantage of not concentrating manufacturing. With the advent of flexible manufacturing technologies and mass customization, such a strategy is becoming less attractive. In summary, technological factors are making it feasible and necessary for firms to concentrate manufacturing facilities at an optimal locations. Trade barriers and transportation costs are the major brakes on this trend. So that's all from me. Tara is going to continue the presentation. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, so the next factor is country factors. You will probably recall from our discussion in earlier chapter that a firm should locate its manufacturing activities where economic and cultural conditions, including relative factor costs, are most conducive to the performance of that activity. In other words, a firm should produce its product wherever it makes the most sense. There are several country factors that influence the decision of where to produce. First is for a location to even be a possibility, skilled labor and supporting industries must be available. Differences in relative factor cost, political economy, culture, and location externalities are important, but other factors also become very important. Formal and informal trade barriers obviously influence location decisions, as do transportation costs, and rules and regulation regarding foreign direct investment can significantly affect the attractiveness of a country as a production location. For example, although relative factor cost may make a country look attractive as a location for performing a manufacturing activity, regulations prohibiting foreign direct investment may eliminate this option. Similarly, a consideration of factor cost might suggest that a firm should source production of a certain component from a particular country, but trade barriers could make this uneconomical. In addition, expectation about the future value of a currency can also influence the decision of where to produce. Adverse change in exchange rates can quickly alter a country's attractiveness as a manufacturing base. Currency appreciation can transform a low-cost location into a high-cost location. For example, the relatively low value of the yen on foreign exchange markets between 1950 and 1980 helped strengthen Japan's position as a low-cost location for manufacturing. Between 1980 and the mid-1990s, however, the yen's steady appreciation against the dollar increased the dollar cost of products exported from Japan, making Japan less attractive as a manufacturing location. In response, many Japanese firms moved their manufacturing offshore to lower-cost locations in East Asia. The last factor is product factors. Two product factors affect location decision. The first is the product's value to weight ratio because of its influence on transportation cost. Many electronic components and pharmaceuticals have high value to weight ratio because they are expensive and they do not weigh very much. So even if they are shipped halfway around the world, their transportation costs account for a very small percentage of total cost. So centralized production makes sense. In contrast, products with low value to weight ratios like sugar, certain bulk chemical, paint, and petroleum products that there is more pressure to manufacture the product in multiple locations around the world because they are relatively inexpensive products that weigh a lot. Accordingly, when they are shipped long distance, transportation costs account for a large percentage of total cost. The other product feature that can influence location decisions is whether the product serves universal needs, which is needs that are the same all over the world. Examples include many industrial products and modern consumer products, like video game consoles, personal computers, calculator, and etc. Because there are few national differences in consumer taste and preference for such products, the need for local responsiveness is reduced. This increases the attractiveness of concentrating production at an optimal location. So there are basically two strategies for locating for production facilities. First is concentrating them in a centralized location and serving the world market from there, or decentralizing them in various regional or national locations that are close to major markets. As you can see, the appropriate strategic choice of where to locate production is determined by three areas that we have discussed earlier, which is country factors, technological factors, and product factors. As this table shows, concentration of production makes more sense when differences between countries in factor cost, political economy, and culture have a substantial impact on the cost of manufacturing in various countries. Second is trade barriers are low. Third is externalities arising from the concentration of like enterprises favor certain locations. And then important exchange rates are expected to remain relatively stable. And the production technology has high fixed costs and high minimum efficient scale relative to global demand, or flexible manufacturing technology exists. And last is the product's value to weight ratio is high, and the product serves universal needs. Alternatively, decentralization of production is appropriate when differences between countries in factor cost, political economy, and culture do not have a substantial impact on the cost of manufacturing in various countries, and the trade barriers are high, and location externalities are not important, and volatility in important exchange rates is expected. And the production technology has low fixed cost and low minimum efficient scale, and the flexible manufacturing technology is not available. And the product's value to weight ratio is low. And last is the product doesn't serve universal needs.
So the third thing that we're going to talk about is the strategic role of foreign factories. Whatever the rationale behind establishing a foreign production facility, the strategic role of a foreign factories can evolve over time. Initially, many foreign factories are established where labor costs are the lowest. For example, in the beginning of 1970s, many U.S. firms in the computer and telecommunication equipment businesses established factories across the Southeast Asia to manufacture electronic components, such as circuit boards and semiconductors, at the lowest possible cost. They located their factories in countries such as Malaysia, Thailand, and Singapore because of these countries offered attractive combination of low labor costs and adequate infrastructure. But over time, the strategic role of some of these factories have expanded. They have become important centers for the design and final assembly of products of the global marketplace. For example, the Hewlett-Packard's operation in Singapore was established as a low-cost location for the production of circuit boards, but the facility has become the center of the design and final assembly of the portable inkjet printers for the global marketplace.
Thank you, Nadhira, for the presentation. And hello, my name is Qorie and I will continue the presentation from Nadhira. Such upward migration in the strategic role of foreign factories arises because many foreign factories upgrade their own capabilities. This improvement comes from two sources. First, pressure from the center to improve a factory cost structure and or customize a product to the demands of consumer in a particular nation can start a chain of events that ultimately leads to development of additional capabilities at the factory. And the second source of improvement in the capabilities of a foreign factory can be increasing abundance of advanced factor of production in the nation in which the factory is located. And the next presentation about outsourcing product make or buy decision. International business frequently face make or buy decision about whether they should perform a certain value creation activity themselves or outsource it to another entity. Historically, most outsourcing decisions have involved the manufacture of physical products. Most manufacturing firms have done their own final assembly, but have had to decide whether to vertically integrate and manufacture their own component parts or outsource the production of such parts. Purchasing them from independent suppliers. Such make or buy decisions are an important aspect of the strategy of many firms. Next, there is the advantage of make. The first one is lowering costs. It may pay a firm to continue manufacturing a product or components part in-house if the firm is more efficient at that production activity than any other enterprise. The second one is facilitating specialized investment. Sometimes many firms have to invest in specialized assets in order to do business with another enterprise. Specialized asset is an asset whose value is contingent upon a particular relationship persisting. The third is protecting proprietary product technology. We have known that the proprietary product technology is unique to a firm. If firm wants to produce a product containing superior features, proprietary technology can give the firm competitive advantage. The firm wouldn't want competitors to get this technology. If the firm outsources the production of entire product or components containing proprietary technology, it runs the risk that the supplier will expropriate the technology for their own use or they will sell it to the firm's competitors. Thus, to maintain control over its technology, the firm may prefer to make such products or component parts in-house. And thus one is improving scheduling. For international business that solves worldwide scheduling problem can be uh, ex- exacerbated by the time and distance between the firm and its suppliers. This is true whether the firms use their own subunits as supplier or use independent suppliers. However, ownership of upstream product facilities is not the issue here. By using information technology, firms can attend tech coordination between different steps in the production process.
So after we're talking about the advantages of make, we will continue to talk about the management focus. It's about the outsourcing at the Boeing company. So the Boeing company itself is one or of two premier commercial jet in the world, holding around half of the global market for large commercial jet aircraft. And there are two problems faced by Boeing. The first one is Boeing faced an aggressive competitor in Europe's Airbus industry. Well, the Europe market is being acquired mostly by the Boeing competitors, that is the Airbus. And this causing both parties to bargain down their prices and make a price war happen. And the second one is the airline business is quite cyclical. And the airline brands reduce their order for a new aircraft when they experience a downturn in their industries. And during the downturn, some downturn may occur in a long time, and this pushed Boeing to face an intense price competition. Both Boeing and the Airbus struggle to maintain market share and order volume when the demand itself is falling. And so, in order to keep up with the price competition, Boeing needs to reduce its manufacturing costs, and they use make or buy decision. To reduce their production costs, Boeing needs to identify activities that can be outsourced to the subcon and both in the US and abroad. So the outsourcing decision, in making outsourcing decision, the Boeing company have several criteria. The first one is Boeing looks at the basic economics. So they look at the central issues, whether the activity could be performed more cost efficiently by outsourcing or by the Boeing itself. The second one, the second one, Boeing considers the strategic risk. The strategic risk associated by outsourcing a production activity. The risks include whether they should outsource the activity, which affect its long-term competitive advantage. The third one is Boeing look at the operational risk associated with the outsourcing activity. They need to make sure that they won't become too dependent on a single supplier for their critical components. And the last one is offsetting. So Boeing considers whether it makes sense to outsource certain activity to a supplier in a given country to help secure orders for commercial jet aircraft from that country. So in conclusion, by 2006, Boeing was outsourcing around two-thirds of the work involved in building a commercial jet aircraft. So mostly they outsource their components from around the world. So now we're gonna talk the about the advantage of buy. So earlier, Diaz has already explained about the advantages of make. So now is the advantage of buy. The first one is strategic flexibility. By outsourcing, the firm can maintain its flexibility, switching orders from one supplier to another as circumstances dictates them. This is important to those international business because changes in exchange rate and trade barriers can alter the attractiveness of supply sources. Sourcing product from supplier can benefit firm uh, from the optimal location for manufacturing is chosen by its political risk. Under the circumstances, FDI is needed to establish a component manufacturing operation in that country will expose the firm to those risks. The second one is lower cost. So, though as already mentioned earlier that in-house production can save so much cost, outsourcing can lower the firm's cost structure as well. Making all part of a product in-house increases the organization scope and the resulting increase in organizational complexity and can raise a firm's cost structure. There are three reasons. The first one is the greater number of subunits in an organization, the more problems coordinating and controlling those units. The second one, the firm that vertically integrated into component parts manufacture may think that because its internal supplier have a captive customer in the firm, they lack an incentive to reduce their costs. And the third one is vertically integrated firms have to determine appropriate prices for goods transferred to subunits within the firms. And the last advantage of buy is offsets. Another reason for outsourcing some manufacturing to independent supplier based in other countries is that it may help the firm capture more orders from that country. As the management focus on Boeing nodes, offset are common in commercial aerospace industries, like I said earlier. Uh, this decision, the make or buy decision, there are some trade-off, right? So the trade-off mentioned earlier, which are the first one is the benefit of making all or parts of a product in-house seems to be greater when highly specialized assets are involved. When vertical integration is necessary for protecting proprietary technology, or when the firm is simply more efficient than external supplier at performing a particular activity. The second one is when these conditions are not present, the risk of strategic inflexibility and organizational problems suggests it may be better to contract out some or all production to independent suppliers.
My name is David Ardian, and I will present about managing a global supply chain. There are three subtopics when we are talking about managing a global supply chain. There are logistics, the role of just-in-time inventory, and the role of information technology and the internet. Logistics encompasses the activities necessary to get materials from suppliers to a manufacturing facility through the manufacturing process and out through a distribution system to the end use. So the objective of logistics is to manage firms' global chains so it can achieve the lowest possible cost and in a way that best serves customer needs. So thereby, logistics is lowering the cost of value creation and helping the firm establish a competitive advantage through superior customer service. The second subtopic in managing global supply chain is the role of just-in-time inventory. Just-in-time inventory pioneered by Japanese firm during the 1950s and 1960s. The basic philosophy behind just-in-time system is to economize on inventory holding costs by having materials arrive at the manufacturing plant just in time to enter the production process and not before. There are three advantages when we are implementing the just-in-time inventory. The first one, it will reduce inventory holding costs, such as warehousing and storage costs. So it means the company can reduce the amount of working capital it needs to finance inventory, freeing capital for other uses, and lowering the total capital requirements of the enterprise. The second one, it will boost the company's profitability as measured by return on capital invested. It also means the company is less likely to have excess unsold inventory that it has to write off against earning of price. The third one, the GIT system can also help firms to improve product quality. Under the just-in-time inventory system, parts enter the manufacturing process immediately, so they are not warehoused. So this allows defective product or defective inputs to be spotted right away. But the drawback of GIT system is that it leaves a firm without a buffer stock of inventory. Although buffer stocks are expensive to store, they can help a firm respond quickly to increase in demand and tide a firm over shortage brought about by disruption among suppliers. Okay, so the next one is the role of information technology and the internet. Web-based information systems play a crucial role in modern materials management. By tracking component parts as they make their way across the globe toward an assembly plant, information systems enable a firm to optimize its production scheduling according to components are expected to arrive. So by locating component parts in the supply chain precisely, good information system allow the firm to accelerate production when needed by pulling key components out of the regular supply chains and having them flown to the manufacturing plants. The firms can also increasingly use electronic data interchange to coordinate the flow of materials into manufacturing, through manufacturing, and out to customers. EDI systems require computer links between a firm, its suppliers, and its shippers, and sometimes customers are also integrated into the system. These electronic links are then used to place orders with suppliers, to register parts leaving suppliers, and to track them as they travel toward a manufacturing plant and to register their arrival. Suppliers typically use an ID link to send invoices to the purchasing firms. One consequence of an ADI system is that suppliers, shippers, and the purchasing firm can communicate with each other with no time delay, which increases the flexibility and responsiveness of the whole global supply system.
Now, moving on to the case analysis, building logistics superhighway from within. And in this case, a company called YCH Group will be discussed. Began as a local family-run transportation business in 1955, YCH Group had evolved to become a leading end-to-end supply chain management company with a turnover of over 300 million Singapore dollars. YCH now has over 100 locations across 23 countries in Asia Pacific, providing logistics solutions to several world's most renowned companies. So YCH has received various awards and recognition because of, first, their leadership and operational excellence in 3P, technology applications, and knowledge-based activities. Second, because of their culture of quality excellence that helped the company envision the notion of building logistics superhighway by increasing geographical integration. So there are various awards achieved by YCH because they are carefully integrating three important dimensions, such as physical flow, information flow, and financial flow. The integration of these flows would need the enablement of IT, so stakeholders needed to ensure that their IT infrastructures are compatible.
So, even though YCH has several strengths, there are some concerns regarding the realization of their logistics superhighway. First, YCH should make sure that the infrastructure from external stakeholders are ready to be completely infused into the system. Second, YCH should bear adequate amount of risk in view of large internal resources and long-term commitment needed to complete the logistics superhighway. And third, YCH should ensure that all levels of YCH leadership will be able to realize the potential of their logistics superhighway. And lastly, the last one, since the prospect of logistics superhighway were strategically enormous, the required work to synthesize the financial dimension might take some time for industry to buy in. By building capabilities from within, YCH has three pillars of strengths, which are talent and human capitals, networks and infrastructure, and quality and innovations. To complete a complex project would require the company to have specialist capabilities in building the logistics superhighway and sustaining it in the most competitive manner. YCH missions was to be the #1 supply chain solutions company in the Asian Pacific. They try to build depth into its network by expanding into the second tier and third tier cities of China and India. At the heart of organization's expansion strategy, there were process optimization and innovation driven through the use of IT. As for competitions, YCH could be seen to compete at the last stage of customers RFQs with those big players on the market, such as Accenture and DHL. This could minimize the direct competition that YCH has by having a niche and customized service that included an integrated end-to-end supply chain management. Besides that, they would also work with local companies to optimize their distribution routes and advance YCH presence across the region. Okay, so we are moving to the question of the case study. Question number one. What are the key factors, internal and external, that have contributed to YCH success as a supply chain management and logistical partner? The internal factors that have contributed to YCH success are organizational culture, leadership, and core competencies. And the external factors that have contributed to YCH success is emerging global markets and partnership with local contributions. Okay, so the first internal factor that have contributed to YCH success is organizational culture. YCH and culture extended family enterprise for their organizational culture concept. This concept enhanced the sense of belonging between worker to worker and worker to company. YCH even called the members as the YCHs to bond them together with a common value they set up. YCH also promotes entrepreneurship and innovation within their company, such as they empower their employees to do so. YCH also believe in CSR or corporate social responsibility rather than profit seeking. Having a strong commitment to their employees has instituted a strong sense of identity and unity among the ECHs. Therefore, YCH has a corporate philosophy that is RISE, which stands for reliability, integrity, sincerity, and enterprise. The company expects employees to be reliable, act with integrity and sincerity with customers and suppliers. Not only it is used to guide them to achieve operational excellence, but also is used in their appraisal and promotion systems. Another aspect in their open communication system to engage younger staff as well as to empower them for their accountability and decision making, supported by the flat organizational structure. And lastly, openness and transparency among YCHs are also portrayed in the country or in the company. Okay, so the second one is leadership. Strategic leadership talent is very much needed by YCH as they are a leading supply chain management company for their advance in IT system and stakeholders. In venturing overseas, they often strengthen their preparations and license with significant stakeholders to create a win-win solutions. YCH also demonstrate corporate social responsibility locally to make the local government and people more receptive toward the company. Thus, YCH has partnered with the city governments to increase efficiency and boost productivity. The third one is core competencies. YCH is a prominent supply chain management company with their networks, infrastructures, quality, and innovations. There are many excellent examples such as IT-enabled innovative process in electronics, chemical and healthcare industries, and then customized 7PL end-to-end solutions which created values in many related value chains. Next, they also developed such logistic infrastructures and strategic networks by leveraging on special economic zones in countries they operated in. Another example is their talent and human capital management that gives their employees equal opportunities and values them in fulfilling their career in the company. Employees are also given constant opportunities for on-the-job training and external courses to enhance their job proficiency and productivity levels. Moreover, their research and development is used for a sustainable and strategic effort in enhancing YCH value propositions and deliverables over the long term. Okay, so we are moving to the external factor that have contributed to YCH success. The first one is emerging global markets. To attain its mission of becoming the #1 supply chain solutions company in the Asia Pacific, YCH constantly expands its market to emerging countries which have lots of manufacturing and logistic potential. YCH continues to build depth into their networks by expanding into the second tier and third tier cities of China and India, since they were considered to provide fast manufacturing and logistic opportunities due to increasing influence of their two Asian consumption giants. With the increasing growth of global manufacturing throughout the years, this will require companies to also establish a global distribution network, which is why CH happens to offer into the market. So the trend of globalization, where markets are now much more integrated and interdependent globally, also provides opportunity for YCH to constantly expanding their market. Trade without borders means manufacturing companies will need a much more complex distribution system since they are now distributing their products globally. YCH, with their established global distribution networks and customized supply chain service, provide a solution for Asia-Pacific companies who need to utilize its service across the region. Okay, so the last one is partnership with local distribution companies. YCH has developed what it's called as last mile partnership strategy. In the strategy, YCH will partner with smaller local logistic partners to optimize their distribution routes and advance presence across the region. This strategy also enables YCH to have these smaller local companies to capture more values in the logistic value chain and become more capable in this industry. This strategy is useful for YCH since it integrates numerous logistic companies which could help to establish efficiency in the global distribution networks.
Next, number 2, going forward, what factors are likely to support YCH growth beyond the Asian region, and what are the challenges that might be faced by the company? So globally, YCH's growth has been supported by emerging technological developments. Being ahead from other competitors, YCH saw this as an opportunity and started using technology in their business operation. Therefore, this helps YCH to develop their business furthermore by integrating several factors like physical, information, and financial flow. This strategy also made YCH one step ahead from its competitor, particularly in Asia. Furthermore, YCH could offer their own core competencies that uphold the niche customized bundle of services that includes end-to-end supply chain management using its unique strategy, which is the 7PL or 3PL plus 4PL strategy. So the challenges faced by the company first is bottleneck at the immigration. So as a supply chain management company that helps shipping products around the world for international trading, YCH would deal with the immigration and or customs in each country a lot. The process of immigration in each country might take a long time in order for goods to be able to enter the country. Dealing with immigration means that you have to deal with the political matters in each country as well. Each country tends to have different political regulation in exporting and or importing goods, which means that YCH needs to know the do's and don'ts for each country system. Even with globalization, most countries still have a very strict regulation regarding export and import. And this strict regulation could prolong the shipping of the goods, and it could result in unsatisfied customer. The second challenge is the leadership problem. So Robert Yap, as the CEO of YCH, he realized that he couldn't be the CEO of YCH forever. There ought to be someone who needs to replace him in the end. So this replacement is what leads YCH to the problem because of the possibility of successor that might not be able to manage the YCH expansion plan. Also, the new successor might also unable to lead the company as good as Robert. And moving on to number 3, what strategic steps should YCH take next to ensure successful expansion to become a global SCM and logistical partner? So first, the step that needs to be taken by YCH is ensure that the product that is being shipped to other countries is one that's safe and legal. And in this case, it can be done by getting the license and paperwork from the country where they are shipped. And the second one, they can ask their customers to prepare the paperwork necessary to prove that the product that they are shipping are legal and safe. So moving on to number 3, what strategic steps should YCH take next to ensure successful expansion to become a global SCM and logistical partner? So because YCH still have problems in its operation right now, mainly the bottleneck that happens in the border checkpoint. So they need to ensure that the product that is being shipped to other countries is the one that's safe and legal. So they can do it by getting the license and paperwork from the country where they are shipped from, so that they won't have any legal problem later in the country. YCH would also ask their customer to prepare the paperwork necessary to prove that the product they are shipping are legal and safe. So this way they can cut more time on the operation. Besides, YCH also need to ensure a reliable and predictable supply. So the system should be synchronized, connected, and integrated with the customer and demand-facing customer. The third, YCH needs to understand the market and the country where it will be expanding. So they will have to do more research on picking countries that they wanted to expand in. It also preferable to expand to countries that previously had difficult access to transportation. By doing this, they will be able to gain a first mover advantage. So also to reach the countries with difficult access, they could use drone technology, an autonomous driver, and AI to send the product and to do the whole operation. And the second one is the top management. So as mentioned before, there is still a problem in YCH management where Robert, the current owner of YCH, wanted to separate the ownership and management in YCH so that the right management will take over. So this can be solved by what has already been done by YCH right now, where everyone has the same chance to lead the company. So that's all from our presentation from Group 3. If there are any questions, feel free to ask, and thank you very much for your attention.